Okay, welcome to the second part of hemolytic anemias. We are going to learn about hereditary spherocytosis and G6PD deficiency. Coming to hereditary spherocytosis, red blood cells' normal biconcave shape and its remarkable elasticity or flexibility are due to its specialized membrane cytoskeleton made up of various proteins. And this specialized membrane skeleton lies closely opposed to the internal surface of the plasma membrane. So, whenever you see changes in this membrane cytoskeletal unit, it leads to increased cell rigidity and premature destruction of the circulating red blood cells. So this is a hemolytic anemia resulting from the red cell membrane defect leading to spherocytosis, splenomegaly and intermittent jaundice. It's usually an autosomal dominant condition which is seen in almost 65% of patients. So what kind of a defect you see in RBC membrane? You can see a spectrin deficiency, you can see other mutations related to ankyrin gene or protein 4.2 band 3 deficiency which leads to reduced membrane stability of these RBCs leading to spontaneous loss of the RBC membrane and leading to spherocyte formation. Okay, in this picture you can see there's a RBC, this is RBC membrane schematic picture, a lipid bilayer is there. You can see spectrin is mainly formed of alpha and beta polypeptide chains which are wound intertwined polypeptide chains which forms a helix. Okay, now they are actually they can have two connection. One is they can bind to each other. This spectrin two molecules can bind head to head, or it can bind the tail portion of the spectrin molecule can bind to actin oligomer. Now this tail portion can further bind to a protein called as 4.1, and that is bound to a protein transmembrane glycoprotein called as glycophorin A. And now the other part of the spectrum can bind through two proteins, that is ankyrin 4.2 proteins, through one more transmembrane protein called as band 3. Okay, you can see here. So whenever this happens, so whenever there is some abnormality or mutation of these proteins, especially ankyrin or spectrin or probably 4.1 or band 3 mainly, there is loss of this RBC membrane because the proteins are lost here. So that leads to a small membrane formation, and they're shed off from the RBC membrane. Now that is when it acquires a shape of spirocyte from the normal biconcave shape, and this happens to compensate the volume loss here. Okay, so there is a decreased surface and decreased volume compared to the increased surface area. So and these once they become spirocytic, they are less deformable and they are eaten up by splenic macrophages. So that is why the spleen will be working more, leading to work hypoplasia of the spleen, leading to splenomegaly. So mechanisms of hemolysis, these RBCs, the spirocytes are less deformable. There is reduced deformability leading to reduced membrane plasticity, and these are abnormally permeable to sodium leading to reduced surface to volume ratio I already mentioned there. That leads to splenic trapping, and this leads to RBC destruction. So there is increased lactic acid production of the increased destruction. There is decreased ATP generation, and this further also leads to water accumulation leading to extravascular hemolysis. Clinical features may vary depending on the age group. It can be seen in neonatal period, childhood, or adulthood. Okay, anemia can be mild to moderate. Only rarely it is severe. Intermittent jaundice is seen, which can be seen as precipitating factors. Splenomegaly because of the work hypoplasia of the macrophages, because they'll be eating up these spirocytes, and there is increased bilirubin deposition because of the extravascular hemolysis, which you already learnt in the earlier part. So there is gallstone formation, pigment gallstone formation, leading to cholelithiasis, and leg ulcers because of the erythrostasis, and that can also be seen in hereditary spherocytosis. There are two types of crisis which can be seen in hereditary spherocytosis. One is hemolytic crisis and hypoplastic or aplastic crisis. Okay, aplastic crisis is mainly precipitated by parvovirus B19 infection. Okay, hematological findings, peripheral pool you see spherocytosis. Okay, and it can be mild, moderate, severe. Reticulocytes are nothing but premature RBCs released into the circulation because of the increased marrow hypoplasia, erythroid hypoplasia. Hemoglobin and mean corpuscular volume are obviously reduced. Total leukocyte count can be increased. MCHC is increased. Serum bilirubin is increased because of, and that is mainly unconjugated hyperbilirubinemia. Urine urobilinogen increased. You can see here in this picture, small hyperchromic RBCs. These are nothing but spirocytes, and you can also see polychromatophilic RBCs with bluish pink cytoplasm. Other tests which can be run are osmotic fragility test, which is a specific test and it's a principal conformity test. It's a measure of erythrocytes resistance to hemolysis by osmotic stress. Okay, whenever this osmotic fragility is increased in hereditary spherocytosis and there is a shift of the curve to the right. Okay, and you can do an incubated osmotic fragility test, you can do an autohemolysis test, and you can identify the deficient proteins by SDS page, radioimmunoassay, and polymerase chain reaction. Differential diagnosis which you should think of in hereditary spherocytosis are autoimmune hemolytic anemia, Burns, and G6PD deficiency. The treatment would be splenectomy. So generally the RBC, the energy for the red blood cells is available primarily through glycolysis by two major pathways, that is Embden-Meyerhof pathway and hexose monophosphate shunt pathway. Okay, even though only 10% of the glucose is catabolized by HMP shunt pathway, it is an important pathway for the prevention of oxidative damage to the red blood cells. Okay, and G6PD is an enzyme involved in HMP shunt and is one of the free radical scavenging systems. So any abnormality in the form of deficiency or impairment of any of the enzymes of these pathway, either Embden-Meyerhof or hexose monophosphate shunt pathway, that will affect the red cell metabolism. Now this RBC enzyme defects reduce the ability of the red blood cells to protect themselves against the oxidative injuries and are susceptible to hemolysis. And the hemolysis is associated with defects in glycolysis is known as congenital non-spherocytic hemolytic anemias because the RBC morphology is minimally altered. The RBC enzyme deficiencies encountered can be HMP shunt enzyme deficiencies, that can be because of G6PD deficiency or glutathione synthetase deficiency, or it can be glycolytic enzyme deficiency, it can be because of pyruvate kinase deficiency. Coming to G6PD deficiency, the RBC is susceptible to injury by oxidants of both exogenous and endogenous origin. So it has to protect itself from this oxidative damage by free radical injury, and this is achieved by reduced glutathione. And this is the G6PD, the first enzyme in the HMP shunt which protects the RBC from the oxidant injury, and it has sex-linked inheritance. That means it's more commonly seen in males. So you can see in this picture, okay, high concentration of reduced glutathione, that is GSH, in the normal RBCs, they protect themselves against the oxidant injury by catalyzing the breakdown of compounds such as hydrogen peroxide to H2O. So now this reduced glutathione is generated by hexose monophosphate shunt pathway. Adequate concentration of the reduced glutathione, that is GSH, is maintained by reduced form of NADPH, that is nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, which converts the oxidized glutathione, that is GSSG, to GSH. Okay. The housekeeping enzyme G6PD reduces the nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide to NADPH while oxidizing the glucose 6-phosphate to 6-phosphogluconate. So they are interrelated. So that is how actually the glutathione is is in the reduced form, and that is important actually. That is important to break down the compounds such as hydrogen peroxide to water. That prevents the oxidative damage to the RBC. There can be many drugs and chemicals which can cause hemolysis, like anti-malarial drugs like primaquine or chloroquine. There can be sulfur drugs. There can be dopsone and Septrin. Okay, nitrofurantoin and naphthalene. All these drugs can actually lead to hemolysis. Into pathophysiology. Okay, there's increased oxygen stress, which can be because of you learned already, it can be because of drugs, and it can also be because of infections like especially pneumonia, chronic hepatitis. Okay, so whenever there is increased oxygen stress, the oxygen stress is not hydrolyzed, so the RBC, this oxidation of hemoglobin through the oxidants forms methemoglobin, and this methemoglobin, in which the Fe2 plus ions are converted to ferric ions, ferrous is converted to ferric ions, and this methemoglobin cannot transport the oxygen. Since it is unstable, it forms membrane-bound precipitates in the cytoplasm known as Heinz bodies. So methemoglobin attaches to the RBC membrane, forming Heinz bodies after it gets oxidized from hemoglobin. And these Heinz bodies are recognized by the splenic macrophages, and they are eaten up by the splenic macrophages, and that is why you see kind of it looks like as if it is bitten up. Okay, so that's why they appear like bite cells. Okay, that leads to extravascular hemolytic anemia. Clinically, either they can have sporadic presentation or it can have self-limited hemolysis. And hemolysis again is dependent on the the amplitude of the oxidant stress. Okay, isoenzyme, it also depends on the isoenzyme and the gender of the patient. Okay, G6PD, again it's more severe in case of G6PD Mediterranean type. The G6PD-B is the normal type what we see, but there are two variants, there are many variants which are same, but G6PD Mediterranean and G6PD minus, these are two variants which can lead to hemolytic anemias. G6PD minus actually leads to mild form of hemolytic anemia. G6PD Mediterranean, which is seen in Middle East countries, it has severe kind of hemolytic anemia. Clinically, patient may present with acute hemolytic anemias, chronic hemolytic anemias, and sometimes they can present with neonatal hyperbilirubinemia. Favism is like, whenever, especially in Mediterranean belt, when the people consume these fava beans, that leads to food-induced damage, increased oxidative stress to the RBC, leading to hemolytic anemia. That is called as favism. Hematological findings: hemoglobin is reduced, reticulocytosis because the immature RBCs are released into circulation. Peripheral smear, you see normocytic, normochromic kind of anemia with polychromatophilia. It's same kind of features as in all other hemolytic anemias. Test for G6PD is positive. Bone marrow, you see erythroid hyplasia. Okay, and you can see these kind of bite cells. You can see here it is eaten up by the macrophages, and these are the inset picture shows the supravital staining, wherein you can see Heinz bodies which are actually membrane bound precipitates, unstable methemoglobin which is precipitated. Okay, that is how it appears. Okay, then we'll go ahead with the part 3, and we're going to learn about thalassemias and sickle cell anemias in the next part. Thank you.